We're happy to welcome all of you here to the July program. And to get started, we'd like to ask Uncle Joe Barlow if he'd come and offer a word of prayer. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for I'm here of this place, senior citizens and people. We ask that your Spirit will be here, even those who are on the program. They'll do their parts well, and that we can have an enjoyable time. We're thankful for this work of this community, and we ask that you'll help us to preserve it, and that our youth and our young people can find expression in wonderful and upbuilding ways, and that their talents will be developed in every way that will build up your kingdom. Will you let your Spirit be with us here tonight? We ask in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Our Father declared this, the American continent, to be a land of freedom and liberty, choice above all other lands, which the Lord God had preserved for a righteous people. He had sworn in his wrath that whoso should possess this land of promise, from that time henceforth and forever, should serve him, the true and only God, or they should be swept off when the fullness of his wrath should come upon them. We have beheld that the decrees of God concerning this land have indeed been fulfilled when the fullness of his wrath cometh upon them when they were ripened in iniquity. The record is before you, the Book of Mormon, church history, our own personal history. We honor those who, in the words of Moroni, seek not for the honor of the world, but for the glory of my God and the freedom and welfare of my country. Now is the time for us to show and honor our colors. The symbol inspired of God to our forefathers sees its deepest hour of distress. We are patriots. We honor our God, our great leader, our men, our country, our flag. Friends and fellow countrymen, our national anthem.
What is that catching the gleam of the morning's first beam? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous
Our forefathers came from many lands where their religious beliefs could not be freely expressed. Inspired of God, these great patriots made a declaration of independence and fought for our freedoms, which are preserved in the Constitution, and gave their lives to protect it. This great nation has found our support even in our own hour of need. The prophet Joseph Smith, one of the nation's greatest patriots, served as Lieutenant General of the Nauvoo Legion. We quote him here. "It is a love of liberty which inspires my soul, civil and religious liberty to the whole of the human race. Love of liberty was diffused into my soul by my grandfathers while they dandled me on their knees. It is one of the first principles of my life, and one that I have cultivated from my childhood, having been taught it by my father to allow every one the liberty of conscience. I am the greatest advocate of the Constitution of the United States there is on the earth. In my feelings, I am always ready to die for the protection of the weak and the oppressed in their just rights. Sacred is the memory of that blood which bought us our liberty." Brigham Young sent forth the Mormon battalion at the call of his country when his driven people were seeking a new home where they could serve the God of this land. John Y. Barlow and Leroy S. Johnson, great champions of freedom, sent many young men to answer the call to arms by our country. These men went with the promise that if they lived clean, the Lord would protect them and bring them home again. We have displayed in the hall a remembrance for you of veterans who serve our God, sent forth from these cliffs.
Along the cliffs there runs a whisper, on the wind there rides a sigh. For the hills are telling secrets of the land in days gone by. Though there's a silence in the sunlight, hidden thunder binds the air, and the earth conceals a trembling of the waiting power there. For the mountains know the story of the stone cut without hands, that from them shall go forth rolling till it covers many lands. And they know of people scattered, driven from the lands of desolation, and they know of where once an Eden grew. And they know the ancient promise of this land of liberty, that a faith as ancient Jared shall again declare them free. And the desert that has witnessed element in conflict knows of the word of Lord and prophet, it shall blossom as the rose. Now the cliffs in shining glory send their song across the plain, for at last a few shall hear them and reply in song again. Many trying experiences have been endured by valiant men. Some we wish to forget. Yet let us not forget that sacrifice men have made in battle to win these freedoms. From this small and struggling community came the largest quota of men per capita in these United States to serve during the Vietnam War. It would appear that an effort was made to deplete our ranks. We had no conscientious objectors. Our men served well and returned as living evidence of our Father's special care and protection. Our veterans have served in every corner of the world. We have seen many flags from many lands. The battle for freedom has been diligently and heroically fought by the soldiers of the army of the living God, many of whom, I'm on the wrong line, I'll start over. America, she has behind her the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the Mexican War, the War of 1812, World War I and II, the Cold Wars, Korean, Vietnam, and many others. We hear of wars and rumors of wars, and little do we know of the hearts of men in our own country. It would seem the greatest trial to our patriots would come while serving our great country. Their fathers at home were arrested and put into prison in disregard of the freedoms provided by our Constitution. We know that what we have here is precious, and like our progenitors, we must hold fast and continue to stand by God and the Constitution of these United States He provided us, and the freedoms and liberties for which it was intended. We dedicate this salute to all patriots of ancient and modern times, and acknowledge that many of these great patriots never wore a military uniform. We wish to express our heartfelt thanks for their mighty efforts to preserve a land of freedom, where we may serve our God according to the dictates of our own conscience. America, the land of promise, land of freedom under God, those who want your choicest blessings must hold fast His iron rod. The battle for freedom has been diligently and heroically fought by the soldiers in the army of the living God, many of whom have never served in the ranks of Uncle Sam's armies. These veterans have fought the good fight in the armor of Christ, their loins girt about with truth, having the breastplate of righteousness, their feet shod with preparation of the gospel of peace, wearing the helmet of salvation and carrying the shield of faith and the sword of the Lord's Spirit. These valiant men are the true patriots, the defenders of freedom.
Yes, we'll rally round the flag, boys, we'll rally.
Yankee Doodle Dixie.
When they finally wake up, they shout, "Hurry up! You work and I'll supervise."
I have limerick.
Ladies and gentlemen, let us introduce to you my Jessup limerick, please.
Gee, I hate the guys who criticize the other guys whose enterprises made them rise above the guys who criticize.
Anybody else? I got one. All right, Shirley. There once was a man from McBee who was stung on the arm by a wasp. When they said, "Does it hurt?" he says, "A little bit." I'm only glad it wasn't a hornet.
Does anybody else have a good limerick?
There was a little old lady from Kent whose nose was awfully bent. One day she followed her nose and nobody knew where she went.
Uncle Joe, limericks?
Uncle Joe.
There once was a lady named Banker who slept while the ship lay at anchor. She awoke in dismay when she heard the mate say, "Now hoist up the top sheet and spank her." Anyone else have a good limerick?
There's one.
David Dutson.
They can't hear us, can
Limerick, please.
they? There once was an MC named Guy who liked to catch everyone's eye. He does such a good job, people think he's a snob, but we all know that's a lie.
Thanks, Dave. I got one. There was a pianist named Shirley whose hair was extremely curly. Try as she might, she could not comb it right. And so she gave up, feeling sorely.
There once was a fellow, a guy, who thought he was terribly shy. But in a moment insane, he mentioned my name. It could not faze one such as I.
I haven't got another one.
I know, Mr. Allred.
Spare us all. There was a tutor who tutored the flute, and he tried to tutor 500 tutors to toot. But try as he might, I'm getting out of sight.
I've got one. No matter how grouchy you're feeling, smile's always quite healing. Grows like a wreath all around your front teeth, thus preserving the face from congealing.
We like to laugh and have such fun. We see a smile on
shop, I suppose. And as for my money, I get it from my honey. He wonders where it all goes.
Now we're gonna say so long is the end of our song. A lyric song, a lyric song.
A one-act play by Aline Jessup. Directed by Aline Jessup and Kathy Jessup. Stage director, Kieran Morrow. This play takes place in the early morning in the year of 1989 in the atrium of the Monroe Victorian-era mansion in the Valley of Gloucestershire, England. The cast are as follows: Miss Malvina Monroe, matron of Bain Worcester.
I was rather pleased when deterioration became apparent. I planned to have the whole wing pulled down, hoping to be rid of the monstrosity.
Duncan, student protege of Sir Nicholas, played by Cuman Barlow.
I never gave you permission to leave in the first place.
Rosinette, daughter of the late Sir Nicholas and wife of Duncan, played by Linda Musser.
Most Americans are a bit strange.
Roger, son of Duncan, played by Del Barlow.
Well, I must say, you've come up with a fascinating mess of the situation.
Paige, daughter of Duncan, played by Cheryl Fisher.
I'm feeling some awfully strange vibes.
Augusta, daughter of Duncan, played by Carol Barlow.
Bob, eat lots and lots of insects and make splendid fertilizer.
Jules, the butler, played by Lauren Black.
Not extremely nutritious, I dare say.
Letitia, visitor from America, played by Katrina Fisher.
She was married to your father.
Vivian, adopted daughter of Letitia, Sylvia Williams.
I only wanted to see you once more.
Malcolm, son of Vivian, played by Porter Barlow.
They tell me she was quiet and sad till I was born.
Dora, daughter of Letitia, played by Terry Shapley.
I want to marry Malcolm.
Miss Averill, school mistress, played by Susan Jessup, and the pupils.
I'm Miss Henriel, and these are some of my pupils.
miss, I dare say.
Are you planning to fit in on Cook's Day off, Gussie?
Not me. I'm only voting for an exam on Shakespeare. And what, may I ask, is that Malvina's throne doing in the atrium?
Peacefully sitting, tending to its own affairs?
How very informative you are, Roger. Jules, could you provide a more specific answer to my innocent question?
Quite readily, Miss Augusta. A group of students will arrive shortly to investigate our vain rooster bus. Your dear Aunt Milvina has kindly condescended to favor them with an interview and will welcome them here in the atrium.
How exciting.
Dear God, you're bloody.
It's a bit early for the appointment. That would be the postman, no doubt.
I couldn't appreciate Macbeth. Too gory. Shakespeare did his bit to bring prejudice regarding the poor bats. But Lady Mac having them flitting to the beck and call of witches.
I know. Rurally, English people have thought of bats as creeping things up midnight and witchcraft for ages.
Even into the early part of the century, people would sometimes kneel live upside down on barn doors to ward off evil spirits.
Roger! How disgusting! Here, have them all. You have shattered my appetite.
Indeed. There you are, Roger. Good morning, Augusta. Roger, I must ask you to remain about and assist your Aunt Melvina with these people coming. You haven't any fascinating plans for the day, have you? Regretfully, no. Fine, then be a sport and do your bit for her.
Only for you, lad. The post, sir.
Anything important?
Nothing of great urgency.
Fine, then I'll be out. Don't be late for school, Augusta.
Well, school time for me. And a pleasant day to you too, Roger.
Sure to be a most stimulating day with dear Auntie and the bats. Good morning, Auntie. You up and about early?
Not too early, I trust. One must be sufficiently composed ahead of time when duty calls. You'll stay by, dear.
Certainly, Auntie. Is there anything I need to get for you?
You might fetch my fan at the mid-sultry today.
It's right here, hanging on your arm.
Oh, yes, of course. Roger,
Yes, Auntie.
I hope you'll conduct the tour for these students when they arrive. I'm hardly up to climbing all those stairs at the pace of young people.
I am here to do your bidding.
Carry on.
Battle stations, everyone. Company has arrived. Yeah, there, Jules. Get the door, please.
Come right in.
Miss Monroe, a pleasure to see you. We are most grateful for this interview. I am Miss Gabriel, and these are some of my pupils. I also wish to introduce our visitors from America. Miss Monroe, may I present Mrs. Letitia Burns and her family, Vivian, Dora, and Malcolm.
A pleasure.
They have come all the way from America just to study our famous British bats.
Are we so widely known?
Oh, yes, indeed. One of your London reporters wrote particularly about Bangwooster. and how you've gone to much expense preserving a habitat. For the greater horseshoe bats, we elected to take up residence here.
We are especially interested in the historical background of your home, and why the bats chose to live here.
Why do you have particular interest in our bat?
Mother is an author. She writes children's books. I believe children should know more about these fascinating creatures. They need information that can help dispel superstition and prejudice.
I agree. Very well. I shall explain about the mansion. Then Roger will conduct a tour of the upper floors where you may see the bats hanging like little leaves from the rafters.
Could you tell us, madam, how long this estate has been in the Munro family line?
According to our traditions, it was awarded to our ancestor, Sylvanus Rupert Munro, by William the Conqueror.
Was the original structure built at the time of the Roman occupation?
Most of the original has been replaced, but what you see here has the Roman architectural influence. However, the later addition, with all the gargoyles and the superfluous ornamentation, was added by our great-grandfather, Tybalt Sebastian Monroe.
The north wing was never fully completed.
What was the reason it was not finished?
Quite a common reason. Your boy simply ran out of money.
How distressing.
No, not actually. I was rather pleased when deterioration became apparent. I planned to have the whole wing pulled down, hoping to be rid of the monstrosity.
That was in 1986, when National Bat Year was declared.
We have Bat Conservation International in our country. What started the English movement to protect bats?
In both Europe and America, bats have been victimized by vampire legends and dramatists, such as our Shakespeare and the creator of Count Dracula.
Bats were considered a menace. People were doing away with them.
The poor creatures were first hounded from their natural homes in caves, then from their roosts in cathedral and stable roosts. Their population was diminishing drastically, with people poisoning their roosts.
The greater horseshoe bat was in danger of extinction, so when it was discovered, we had a colony in our rafters here. The Nature Conservancy Council put in a request for their preservation.
Conservationists aroused public sentiment.
They spread the word about how these poor, misunderstood little beasts have suffered for centuries, and how nice and useful bats really are.
So, of course, dear Aunt Malvina couldn't tear the fence down when the workmen found that all these lovely little orphans had chosen Vane Rooster as their refuge.
How gracious of you, madam.
Yes, well, since Her Majesty's subjects have gone batty over bats, there was nothing for it but to shore up the crumbling masonry, secure the doors and windows, and repair the leaking roof.
In 1981, a law was passed making it a crime to harass bats in any way.
It has caused quite a stir in some places. The famous Greywell Tunnel on the Basingstoke Canal in Hampshire is Britain's greatest bat hibernation site.
Since the law now makes it an offense to annoy bats in any way, they have put a grill across the tunnel mouth to keep the barges from going through.
The canal boaters are battling to have it removed.
Clergymen with bats in their belfries have become quite uncharitable toward bats. The church warden at St. James in Burlington, Worcestershire, complained that the organist there could no longer tell the black keys from the white ones because of the ceaseless rate of bat rubbings.
The poor man placed a stuffed owl on the windowsill in an effort to frighten the bats away. But one irate citizen reprimanded him for illegally annoying the roosting animals. Now, I shall leave you with Roger.
We all Oh, thank you, madam, for your kindness.
Not at all.
All right, folks. If you'll enter the hall at your left and proceed to the stairway at the end, lead out, and I shall follow.
Come, children.
Paige, do me a favor. Take over for a moment, will you?
I suppose I'd better. I'm feeling some awfully strange vibes.
You are Roger? Yes. It's like I'm looking into a mirror. You're telling me your father, is he still alive? He certainly appeared healthy enough when he walked out that door this morning. And your mother? Mother is presently with the gardener selecting new bedding plants. Now, shall I ask about your parents? Not yet. I need time to figure the best way to approach the subject. Tell me more about your father. What's he like as a person? Dad, he's a professor. He digs up ancient languages. How does he handle surprises? Quite a steady sort. Doesn't blow away easily, if that's what you mean. That's encouraging, because I have recently gotten some facts I need to discuss with you. At a better time and place, what can we arrange? You could come back this afternoon. The family is planning an outing, and I could excuse myself and meet you here. Great, then. Let's have a look at your bats. I'm really into bats. We have become quite patriotic. Would you believe people are paying 50 cents for a 2-ounce bag of bat guano to enrich the flower beds? No kidding. I've been studying bats at the university. Bats are gentle, intelligent, beneficial to mankind in many ways. They're about as evil as puppy dogs. That's true, I suppose, though I haven't really bothered about them. We have 2 varieties in Arizona, the Sanborns and the Mexican long-tongued bat that have small, dog-like faces. In fact, they're the major pollinators of the saguaro and Oregon pipe cactus and other desert plants. Amazing! The thing that strikes me most is that in many parts of the world, bats are considered symbols of good luck and family unity.
How's the tour going, dear? Oh, they seem to be getting on. Did you know they have kinds of bats in South America we've never even heard of? No, dear. Mom, there's a really strange boy here from America. Most Americans are a bit strange. But this one looks like he was cut out with the same cookie cutter as Rata. That's nice. Here's an interesting article on azaleas. I've always liked azaleas, though they do need special care. I suppose if I'd said he was a ring-tailed kangaroo, you'd only say, that's nice, dear. Who, dear? Oh, never mind. Auntie will be wanting her chair. I'd better have Jules come for it.
I was studying bats at the university when I ran across this article about Bane Rooster. Then I took my chance on coming here.
Mother got in touch with her friend, Miss April, and had her arrange an interview.
Oh, purpose of meeting me?
We didn't know just who would meet, but the minute I saw you, I knew that you was the one to approach first.
We want you to hear the story first, then leave the matter to your own judgment, whether or not to tell your family.
Since you fired my curiosity to 700 degrees, perhaps you'd better get on with it.
Letitia, you first.
My side of the story begins about 20 years ago. I had come to England to do some research for a book I was working on. One day in the late afternoon, I drove out to a secluded spot by the river to relax and arrange my notes. I had been quietly daydreaming when I became aware of a young lady near the bank who appeared to be in great distress.
How could you tell she was distressed?
She was pacing back and forth, wringing her hands and wiping her eyes. I approached her carefully and persuaded her to come back with me to my hotel. She calmed down somewhat after a cup of tea, but she utterly refused to tell me anything except that she was in distress.
How'd she know home?
Since she refused to tell me anything, I was left to draw my own conclusions, which were that she was in deep emotional trouble with nowhere to turn for help. So I took her home with me to America. We had to give her a name since she wouldn't tell us hers. They called her Vivian. She named Malcolm after my husband. We had no son then.
They tell me she was quiet and sad until I was born.
Then she woke up and decided life was worth living after all. I put her through college, and she has made good as a commercial artist. She illustrates my books. I want to marry Malcolm, but he won't even consider it unless he can find out who his father is.
What makes you think that I might know anything about your father?
I have finally found out that my mother was born at Bainworcester.
You've got to be mistaken. No one has been born here for over 70 years, except my mother, and me, of course, and my two sisters up in the backs. Is that what she told you, that she came from here?
Mother has always refused to discuss her origin with me when I've asked, demanded or even thrown a tantrum.
She is really a very sweet person, though I've never known anyone so determined to keep a secret. But Malcolm convinced her at last that it was her duty to tell.
So, how did you manage it?
She was in a very bad traffic accident. When I reached the hospital where they'd taken her, I told her that if she died without telling me who my father was, I would never forgive her.
That finally broke down her resistance.
Roger, does the name Jocelyn mean anything to you?
Jocelyn? Well, yes. It seems my mother had a younger sister by that name. Apparently she died before I was born. They don't talk about that.
The truth, too long concealed, Roger, is that she was married to your father. They had just returned from a lengthy and very happy honeymoon when your grandfather died. It was a very stressful experience for Jocelyn. She said that her own mother had died when she was very young. She depended on her older sister and developed a deep love for her.
And then on top of losing her father, she somehow discovered that her sister had hoped to marry your father. But your grandfather made the arrangement for him to marry my mother.
Stop! You've got me going in circles. Back up and start over. You said that your mom was married to my father.
And she loved her sister so much that when she found out that she was in love with you...
She was young and unwise enough to believe that if she was gone, her sister could marry him and have the happiness she had been denied.
Well, I must say, you've come up with a fascinating mess of a situation.
Can you blame a man for wanting to meet his father?
Not really, old chap. I'm actually rather delighted to be presented with a ready-made brother. It does get a bit lonely with only sisters about.
Then you don't mind my coming here?
Doesn't bother me in the least. I'm just wondering how to break the exciting news to dear old Dad.
Master Roger, wish me informed when I observe the family returning.
Thanks, Jules. That will be all.
Then we'll leave.
Let me know as soon as you figured out how to handle the situation. I don't want to be an embarrassment to your family, but I can't leave England without seeing my father, even if he is not told who I am.
If he sees you, your face will tell him who you are, without you even opening it.
Promise you'll call us soon.
Don't worry. That's a pretty good egg. It's really his problem, not mine.
We'd better hurry.
I'll call you. How inconveniently delightful to have a twin. He couldn't be more than a few months older than I am. I'm sure Mom won't mind. But Aunt Milwine is such a Victorian.
Roger? Who are those people just driving away?
Ah, wouldn't you love to know ya?
Roger, you know I detest being put off.
Only too well.
Paige told me there was a boy here this morning that was practically a mirror image. Is it true?
Have you ever known Paige to be untruthful?
Roger, stop teasing this instant or I'll...
You what?
Mom! Mom!
Yes, Augusta.
Roger's been absolutely infuriating.
If you wouldn't infuriate so easily, I'm sure he'd let up.
Oh.
What's it about this time?
Mom, come sit down. I have some questions to ask you.
Very well, Your Honor. Question number 1.
Mom, whatever happened to Jocelyn?
Jocelyn?
Yes. You had a younger sister, Jocelyn. You haven't forgotten, have you?
Of course not. I've cried over her for years.
Mom, you've never talked about a sister.
It was too painful a subject to discuss with a child.
And when will I be considered more than a mere child?
Oh, Gussie, drop the others. This is important. Mom, tell me about Jocelyn.
I suppose I have shielded you too long from life's distressing thoughts, but apparently you've come upon a reason to ask.
Oh, most assuredly I have.
It's a long story that begins when we were small children. After our mother died, Aunt Malvina took upon herself to see that we were brought up as proper young ladies. In her mind, she was doing what was best for our own good. She was very strict.
Isn't she still?
Not so much, not nearly so much as then. I didn't suffer so badly. I think she rather favored me. But she was very severe with Jocelyn, who was younger and quite timid.
Auntie must have been a bit of a dragon in her prime.
I loved my little sister very much and tried to take the place of a mother for her. I did all I could to protect her from Aunt Malvina's misguided efforts to discipline her.
It must have overwhelmed her. Losing her father, along with her own physical condition.
What do you mean?
The child she would be having.
A child? Not even I was aware of that. How could you know such a thing?
Mom, how much do you know of what really happened to her?
Roger, stop. Can't you see you're upsetting Mom? churchyard. I left her here and followed Duncan to Father's study. I returned and she was not here. She was nowhere to be found.
Were you the last person to see her?
No, apparently Aunt Malvina was, as far as we could determine. She told us that Jocelyn appeared greatly distressed and made the remark that she wished she might be in the grave with her father.
Did you try to find her?
Of course we did. We had everyone scouring the countryside for days. We found her house on the riverbank and could only conclude that she had put herself into the river and was carried out to sea.
Now, do you want to know what really happened to her?
Do you know, is she still alive?
Her son is. He was here today.
Are you serious?
Never more so. I am so outlandishly thrilled to have found a brother that if the family doesn't accept him off, I'd go out to America with him.
Roger,
I'm going to die.
Augusta!
Don't stop him. He needs to know.
Are you all right? A little down, to say the least.
You need a cup of tea or something?
No, I'm all right. It's just thinking how terrible it must have been for her, so vulnerable to life's harsh realities.
She was just plain stubborn.
You didn't know her?
No, but her son did. It wasn't until death actually stared her in the face that they were able to make her tell who her family was.
Roger, Gussie is so frantic we can't get any sense out of her. She insists we have a brother.
She's right.
I see. I suspected something strange when those people were here this morning. But where did he come from?
The box brought him.
How can any man who believes in a just creator turn his back on his own flesh and blood?
Then I'll tell him to come.
How could all this have happened?
I have long suspected that dear Aunt Malvina knew more about this than she had courage to admit.
What do you mean, Dad? Auntie stands by some high-handed ideals, but she's not truly malicious.
No, but she was very disappointed when I married Jocelyn. And she may have let her feelings slip out in an unguarded moment, under stress.
She must have told Jocelyn that Dad married the wrong girl. I would have run away too. We don't know for sure, Gussie. Perhaps poor Aunt Malvina wasn't able to wed someone she wanted. She never married, you know.
You could be more right than you suppose.
Do you know what I think? It's all the fault of tradition. Who has the right to say a man can't love and take care of more than one lady? It's like this thing about the bats. They're really very useful and help us, but people have been afraid of them for centuries.
And have treated them unmercifully.
Simply because, a long time ago, someone started the story that bats are evil denizens of the night and companions of witches. And hot rabies can get in your hair. There are some kinds of plants in the world that depend on bats for survival, like the wild agaves of Mexico. The bats carry pollen on their noses from one plant to another, like bumblebees. Bats eat lots and lots of insects and make splendid fertilizer. But because of tradition, people have hated and destroyed them.
I see your point, Paige. It seems a long time ago someone established social customs, just as false and destructive. England is full of ancient maidens who have gone through life alone, unwed and childless, bound by tradition.
If that wasn't so, you could have had Mum and Malcolm's mother. Then we'd all be happy.
Malcolm
way.
Oh, just to think of how she must have suffered. If only I had known what drove her to leave. She seemed so happy. There was nothing to warn me, no way to know.
Oh, dear Duncan. You can't worry about what the past has swallowed up. We can only go on from here.
That's right. It's the present that we have to worry about.
And that is my full intention.
What do you propose to do?
Everything I can to make up to my son for what he has missed.
We could start a campaign to put down the traditions that past us made.
You can't change. You can't change the whole world, Jessie.
It's working for bats.
It's hardly the same as dealing with people.
That's true. We can't change the world, but we can do something about our point of view. Now, Malcolm is a part of us. And if the rest of the country has any objection, they can sit on it.
That's right, Dad.
You could probably say that about Malcolm, but would it make any difference if his mother was here?
Oh, that might pose a bit of a dilemma, but since she isn't, we carry on.
I see. Mom, if your sister was still alive, could you love her as part of Dad's family?
If you truly love a person, time or place or circumstance makes no difference.
That's true, Rosanette. And do you know that when we sacrifice our feelings for the sake of another's happiness, our love for them grows stronger still?
I know, and I'd make any sacrifice if she could be here. I'd step aside and let her take my place.
Don't be ridiculous. Do you think I would allow anyone to take your place? Every woman should be a queen in her own right.
That's right, Dad.
Hello, Dad. It's been a long time.
But things are going to be different now.
Thanks. I needed that.
Malcolm, welcome home.
Aunt Rosanette. What a lovely name for a lovely lady.
I'm very pleased to meet you.
And you are Paige?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Gussie. But what's the good of having another brother if you look just alike? The least you could have done would have been to have a face of your own.
We don't make our own faces. That is the Creator's business. We must be thankful for whatever face we are blessed with.
Jocelyn.
I hope you don't mind. I only wanted to see you once more. Then I'll go back to Arizona.
You'll do nothing of the sort.
Jocelyn!
Hello, Duncan. You're looking fit.
Jocelyn, you've grown up.
So,
Roger, why didn't you tell us she was still alive?
Sorry for the lack of information, Dad, but I had to test you all a bit. I wasn't sure how you'd feel.
How could you doubt? You've something to learn, son, about love.
Jocelyn, how could you have stayed away all these years? How could you have left us?
it was a bit foolish, I suppose. But I believed I was doing the right thing. Your happiness meant more to me than my own.
Happiness, if you only knew the tears that have been shed over you all these years. Aunt Malvina most of all has suffered, thinking she had a part in your going.
I forgave her long ago. You see, I've had a very interesting life and a career I would have missed but for her.
Then you must tell her.
Oh, poor Auntie. I was so afraid of her. But she needn't see me. I'll be leaving.
You'll do nothing of the sort.
Oh, I must. What would people think? It would be an embarrassment for you to have me here.
You are still my wife, and I have a marriage license to prove it.
Don't hurt, Mother. The British ladies have ways of turning their backs on things that people in America make a fuss about.
That's right. There's been some gossip about Prince Charles and Princess Di pursuing separate interests, and no one would think a thing of it if he should take up with an additional lady. Royalty can't divorce, you know.
Please, Aunt Jocelyn, who cares what people think? They all know we're party anyhow.
And Malcolm said the bats are a symbol of good luck and family unity.
Well, all right, if you really want me to stay.
I never gave you permission to leave in the first place.
We could go to Arizona. I'm sure we'd be accepted there.
We bring this program to a close with the remembrance of July 26th, 1953. The members of this community were assembled together in the old schoolhouse yard in the early morning. They watched the line of police cars come in upon them and their leader shout, "Don't move, you are all under arrest." While this community was under the siege, our prophet declared, "Sing Zion." Please feel free to join in.
Now I long to your birth.
We'd like to thank all of you for coming and enjoy this time with us. And let's give a big hand to the band for their support of us. We're sure glad that we could have Uncle Reuben come and Uncle Fred. Appreciate all his help and hospitality. Uncle Bill, would you close us with a word of prayer?
Our very kind and eternal Heavenly Father, we come before Thee at the close of this nice, clean entertainment, and we want to thank You for it and thank You for these participants. We thank You for our brothers and our sisters in the gospel. We thank You for Brother Rulon and for those good friends that are assisting him in the fights for our rights. We pray that we'll live worthy of it and get the spirit of independence and love of the freedoms that we have been taught and trained to appreciate. Now dismiss us with Thy blessings, Father. Let us go to our homes in peace and safety, and help us to rally for the morrow for the things that we are asked to do. Now these things we humbly pray for, and thank You for, and dedicate ourselves unto. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.